Hi, and thank you again for joining us at New England Veterans Liberty House, the second segment of PTSD and Combat Veterans with Dr. Grace Chen. So thank you again for remaining with us, and we're going to continue on the topic that's so crucially important to so many of our veterans and our families.
Yeah, so in the last segment we talked about family members needing and wanting to know, but a lot of times a veteran seems to be just closed off. They don't want to talk about it, and a lot of it has to do with the so-called criteria D, that diagnosing of PTSD. So now you have the stressor, you have the intrusive symptoms, you have avoidance behaviors.
Yeah.
And how that's going to have impact is that now that whole experience might have a negative alternations in terms of your cognition and your mood.
Okay.
For example. Yeah, like becomes a negative belief about yourself or the world. For example, the world is a dangerous place. So if the world is a dangerous place, maybe I don't want to talk to you about what's going on.
Sure.
Or it's all my fault, so certain things happen. Or it's all my fault, so I couldn't
say. Guilt trip.
Yes. So if it's my fault and I feel guilty, would I want to tell you what happened over there?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. And there are some negative emotions like guilt and shame, and so because of those negative alternations about yourself, because of those beliefs, a lot of times veterans try to withdraw.
Yeah.
And so it's not because they don't want to open up to people. It's that if I believe there's something wrong with me or something wrong with this outside world, why do I want to tell you about me? If I feel there was something I did wrong and I should be punished, then why do I want to tell you what I did was wrong?
Yeah, it's shameful. It's very shameful that again, shameful, that guilt trip.
That self-doubt. They should have, would have.
Yeah.
And so you could see them a lot of the times. There were things they liked to do previously. They stopped wanting to do that.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there are some people they used to hang out. Now they don't want to hang out with those people anymore because, again, goes back to my analogy of this. In a way, the families are here, veterans come back here, but somehow they were also hoping there was some kind of image they portrayed before they leave.
Yeah.
Still stay the same, especially if whatever that's happening during the combat zone here was something they are not feeling good about themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs when you're in a situation of that sort. So should I have done this? Should I have done that? If I would have done this way, would this guy be alive?
Yes.
If I would have just taken a right instead of a left, would I run into the IED or something like that? Yeah, and being a tactical commander of a fire team, or tactical commander, on a convoy, that's a lot of responsibility.
Exactly.
A lot of responsibility. So anything that happens within that convoy, it really resonates with you.
Yes.
Like, well, what did I do wrong?
Exactly.
Where did I go wrong?
And so instead of opening up, telling people what happened over there, if I wasn't feeling very proud of what happened over there or the decision I made in this split second, it's very hard when you have people come to you and say, so I want to know and tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, details.
And then it's hard to say, this is what happened and I feel horrible about me.
Yeah, that really, I've personally never seen it. I think there's a part of you that wants to talk about it, but there's a part of you that says no, because it was wrong.
Exactly.
It was just wrong, or it was not the right time and place for that situation to happen. It just had to happen. It was a situation that it was a do or die. It could be, excuse me, perfect example is, they were using kids, a lot to carry out suicidal attacks, or they're using stuffed animals and real live animals, kind of putting in stuffed animals with that. So look at a child. Put yourself in that veteran's mind, and ask yourself, that veteran having kids, having to put his sights of his weapon on a kid, not knowing what that kid has. That's not something you want to really come back here and talk
No.
about. You know what I mean? That's something that it's like you want to just erase it from your memory. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Especially even if you don't have kids. I mean, that's something you still look upon as, in order to do that, man, you have to become somebody else that you weren't. So I agree 110% with you on that. That negative alterations, that blaming, I see that a lot in veterans. And yeah, that's something that, let me ask you a question though. Because we were going back about being able to have a dialogue with the family. And a horrific situation such as I just explained, if you as a veteran are not able to have a discourse with your family about that, or maybe not the actual specifics, but if you're not able to have that, isn't that just going to create more tension, more separation?
Yeah, so one of the impact on that is now like they are alienating themselves from other people.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, because if you're not coming back, and for example, I'm going to use myself because I didn't, Peggy, and you know Peggy, I didn't quite, I spoke to Peggy for a while and really didn't start really opening up to Peggy for a while. But to this day, I haven't spoken to any of my immediate family about the decisions or the things that I had to do in my first deployment or in my second deployment. Would I like to? Yeah, sure. But there's some stuff in there that I'm not proud of and I'm not happy about. But then it goes back again to either A, you become somebody that you're not. 2, you want to make sure that you and your troops come back with 10 fingers and 10 toes. So those are things and decisions that you have to make. You don't have time to think about it. It's a reaction. You have to react, plain and simple. But going back to it, if you don't talk to someone, at least a licensed therapist, man, that inside of you is just going to tear you apart. So
Exactly, and you actually just touched the point in the next criteria.
oh, did I jump the guns?
Yeah, actually, it was a really perfect example
Okay.
when you say a lot of times it's a split second. You just have to make that decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you are not, I said to a lot of veterans, you are not responding to a situation, you are actually reacting to a situation. Responding means that you actually will think and decide what you do. Reacting means that right away you have to let your instinct take over.
Yeah. So So your action is going to dictate my reaction.
Exactly. So what happens is the so-called next criteria is that there's arousal and reactivity.
Yeah, that's the criteria you gave me.
It's, now.
But it makes sense though. I'm sorry, Grace,
Yeah.
to cut you off but it makes sense because the criteria E is and do you mind if I read it?
Sure, go ahead.
Irritable, reckless behaviors, hypervigilance, sleep disturbance, problems in concentration. That's all me.
Yeah.
I mean, that you described me to a T. So when you said, hey, when you talked to Jeannie and said that he's like criteria E, I mean, we laugh about it, but it's true. Please continue on. I'm sorry, I just want
because why it looks and it read like it was bad. Irritable, reckless behavior, hypervigilance, sleep disturbance, problem is concentration. But if you think about when you were in combat, that's pretty much all you have is that you are constantly restless.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep looking at your surroundings. You're constantly trying to react as fast as you
Certain
can.
way, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, situational awareness at all times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it read really bad.
It does. I mean, by reading it and you're reading it out, it's like, wow, that's horrible.
But you know what? That's what kept you coming home with 10 fingers and 10 toes.
Yeah, true. That situational awareness always was there, and that's why people say when your head is in a swivel, that's me, because you're constantly doing this, you know.
And you are constantly processing what needed to happen. You're constantly thinking. You're constantly reacting to the situation, even when you are sleeping. And the sleep disturbance also might have tied into, we talked about the intrusive symptoms. Therefore, the sleep disturbance could relate it to, I couldn't fall into sleep because I'm scared.
Night sweat. Yes.
Yeah.
Of the unknown.
Of the unknown.
That's going to happen if I fall asleep and that deep REM. And I think we had that conversation not too long ago at the vet-to-vet meeting.
Exactly, right? And then also, if I'm falling into sleep, then I'm losing
control of the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, my grounds.
And then the nightmares comes in. And then you woke up from the nightmare, and now you are all woke yourself up with the fear, the night sweats, the anxiety.
Pulse is out of control, your heartbeat, and it's like, what do you do now? How do you come down from that?
Exactly, right? And so now the sleep disturbance might relate to that, and the problems in concentration. Again, if you're not sleeping well, naturally. You will have issues in terms of retrieving the information in your brain. And then you're not sleeping well. You know you're tired. Yeah. It's hard to concentrate on what's going on.
Yeah, it is. But you try your very best, though. I mean, I'm going to go back on what you're saying in regards to the sleep disturbance. I think that you're so used to with going on a daily basis when you have boots on ground in theater. You're so used to getting 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep, that if you go anything beyond that, it feels abnormal. It feels like there's something wrong. Why am I sleeping this long, or why should I? Because the minute I close my eyes, what's going to change in my surroundings when I open my eyes? So you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss not one thing. I say, and I think we had a conversation. I put 16 cameras in my home, and I think we had a conversation. And the guy came up to install it, and he goes, "Why are you putting so many cameras in your house?" I said, "He goes, you only have a 1,200 square foot home." I'm like, "Because it makes me sleep better at night." He goes, "That's it?" I said, "That's all I need. I have my monitor right in my room, and I have a monitor in a TV in the living room area. And so if I'm in the living room area, I turn my monitor on. If I'm not in the living room, I turn that off, put it in my room." Why do I do that? Well, I do that because I want to be aware of my surroundings at all times. I don't want someone sneaking up on me. So every square inch of my house is covered. Now, to other people that might not understand, they'll probably looking at me like I'm some type of freak, because, oh, wait a minute, now this guy is like, every square inch of his house. But it's not that. It's like, you got to understand that that hypervigilance is always there.
And if you know that you don't have time to respond, all you have is a split second to react.
Which you do in a combat zone.
Exactly. Then you know why it is so important for you to know every inches of your house, because you need to know all the information. So in that split second, you can make the best decision.
And it's thank you for elaborating on that, because it makes so much sense. The way I set up my cameras, it's like a big U, so I know if I'm looking up here, this is one sector of my house. If I'm looking here, this is another sector of my house. If I'm going down here, it's another sector. So it's like I've broken my house down into sectors, which we used to do in a combat zone. If you're in a combat zone, you split your sectors, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and that's how you'd call it in, right? So that's the same way I set that TV up, because I relate to it.
Exactly.
And if I look, I don't want to look at 12 o'clock, I'm going to look at 6 o'clock. So that's all I want to see. That's what I'm going to see. But that's that's the hypervigilance. That's the situational awareness that comes then with that, is not the trouble sleeping, the irritable, the
Yeah.
snapping at people,
Yeah.
the not concentrating.
And then
I mean,
sometimes it's almost like you are looking for trouble because
Yes,
it's not
yes,
like you are looking for
exactly.
trouble. It's that
Yes.
you wanted the situation under control before.
yes, you're 100% right.
But sometimes when
Yeah.
you reacted too quickly before there was any indication of trouble, then that's reckless behaviors.
Yeah, but that's right. But that's what it is, though. You want to be on top of it before it comes to you. Like I have a service. Well, I don't. He's not certified yet. Name's Cato. A nice little dog. And you see my dog. Well, he's in the process of becoming my service dog. And they asked, what are the main 3 things that you want your service dog to do? I said, well, I'll tell you my top 2. I said, but one of them is search. You know, search my house on command, because I have a bad habit of searching my house. Even for the slightest thing, stupid thing. I might have just pulled over that curtain, and then 10 minutes later, it's like I'm looking for trouble, pretty much. Oh, there's got to be something there. But in actuality, there isn't. So teach him to search my house upon command, so that I don't have to do it every single time I'm in the house, or every single time I come in the house. Search around my vehicle, and then help me with my anxiety behavior. And they were asking me, well, why? Well, the trainer asked, well, why search? I says, I mean, are you going to use them, you know, like for a canine, or are you going to use? I said, no, this is just for me, for my well-being. If he does it for me, which they have obviously better senses than we do, then I know I'm okay. And so, again, going back to combat theater, where we use a lot of dogs, right, to sniff out IEDs, or if it's a dangerous situation, we usually bring the dogs in first, or not my unit, but other units bring the dogs in first. And so that's like a safety mechanism that I say I would use. But if I don't have that, then I'm going back to that hypervigilance, that irritable, that reckless behavior, because I'm clearing out my house completely with a weapon in my hand or something, you know what I mean? So,
And that goes back to, again, because of the stressor you are under
Yep.
during that time, and now you have intrusive thoughts.
symptoms.
Those symptoms are intrusive. So now you try to avoid
Yep.
that by doing these hypervigilance behaviors and by checking out, because what? You want to avoid those
Situations that you were in
Yes.
in the past, or situations that might put you in places of the past.
especially if those situations comes into, there are some negative alterations in your cognition and emotions.
I can't, you know, it's just amazing. Again, we can laugh about it now, but that criteria E, just like reading it about it now, is really hitting home right now, because it's a lot of those behaviors reflect what I do.
Well, I remember a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I went somehow, whatever way, I can't remember how I came through this video, the TED Talk. Do you know the TED Talk?
No.
So TED Talk, it was like they usually invited different people talking about their experiences. It's usually short. So one time they had a veteran talking about his experience.
Like all-out experience, like
His
combat and
his
blood
experience.
and all
So this is what happened. So he said when he first came home, it was one night he was out with his friend, and that's actually pretty sad. When I talk about this, it always makes me
It's
feel
emotional.
very, very sad. So he was in a bar with a friend because he was hypervigilant. So he drank to avoid, to calm himself down, avoid that.
I did that many times.
So in the corner of his eye, he saw
His
someone
peripheral vision.
pull out a knife, put it on the,
Counter.
yes.
Oh,
So he
no.
said he couldn't remember what happened, but next thing he knew was someone handcuffed him and then took him to police station. And what he later on, what people told him was that in the split second, he had that person knock on the ground and he told everybody stay down and knock that person on the ground.
Yeah. Because that's stuff that you're trained to do. It's put everybody down immediately, and that's why I have, like, I go into places with glasses, sunglasses.
Yeah.
And it's not to look cool. It's not to look cool. I like to look at hands. Because if you don't have anything in your hand, and I say this over and over again, and I think my audience have heard it enough, but if I see with my sunglasses, you're not seeing where I'm looking at, but I'm not looking at you. I might be staring at you, but I'm looking at your hands. And if you don't have anything in your hands, then you're not a threat to me. But that minute, same go with that guy. The minute his peripheral vision picked that up, he just slammed it and reacted right on it. That's too bad.
In a lot of ways.
And it's the norm, and that's the norm for a lot of veterans. That is the norm.
And you can say it's reckless behavior, right? Why did you go to the bar and drink? Why did you do that? You can categorize as a lot of so-called reckless behavior.
Yeah.
But it's really sad for me when I was watching that TED Talk. I was so sad because I was thinking to myself that if that was happened during the combat zone, he would be a perfect soldier.
Yeah.
But because it happened in a civilian life, in a bar, now you are a criminal.
Yeah, unfortunately. You're a product, they say, you're a product of your environment, so you want to leave it at that environment, but it's not as easy as people think it is. You can't just leave your stuff in your environment that you just came from. That thing is going to carry out throughout the rest of your life. I mean, I only did 13 years, and I have a lot of respect and admiration for veterans, especially veterans that have done, I mean, that 20 plus years. I know a veteran that did 32 years. Barbara, Barbara Donahue that works in our office, her husband did 32 years, and I can't imagine with a little bit of time that I did, and what I've gone through and seen, I can't imagine what they've done and seen in that entire 30 years or 20 plus years. So yeah, it's heartbreaking, and but that's why we're here. That's why we're here, because we're trying to bring it out to the light. We're trying to bring it out to the public. We're trying to bring it out to you all and tell you that these are the things that you might see in your loved ones that you might think that might be reckless, but in actuality, think about where he just came from, or she just came from.
Exactly, and
just think about that.
Think about there was a reason.
Yeah.
Think about there was a reason they bring him or her home.
Yeah.
Because he or she was able to react so quickly.
Yeah. That's true. Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
And the other thing is to really understand all of this diagnosis criteria is to understand it's really not just one thing. It's that you fulfill all these criteria, and you also fulfill that you have experienced that. The next criteria is that you have experienced this more than a month, and then it actually has significant impact. That's important to know, is that all the diagnosis is important, that it has impact on your social functioning and your occupational functioning and things like that.
I think that's why one of the reasons I stay at work so long. But listen, I don't have much time, and I want you to do real quick, and I don't know if you did it last time, but you've been doing it in the vet to vets, and you talk about emotions, and then you talk about feelings, and can you just briefly talk about that real quick?
Exactly. So essentially is that when you are, the PTSD is the idea of that when you have a stressor, a stressful situation that causing you have a physical response. And then when you have that, so it registers you physically, and you also have an image or a sense or hearing that registered. Now, whatever that is that causing the intrusive thoughts, now you will have avoidance behavior. But more importantly, that intrusive thoughts or that memory that you carried usually implies there is a thought tying into that. So if that thought is, I'm guilty of doing that, or I'm shameful of doing that, the feeling is certainly going to be very negative.
Sure.
Or the thought is, oh my God, it's so dangerous, or I'm frozen. Now the feeling is emotions. And unfortunately, a lot of times that the so-called PTSD is that you got stuck with your physical response and then memory,
Yeah.
And the emotions and lots of cognitions were not fully processed.
I enjoy every time you say that because you put it in a perspective that makes sense to a lot of us. I know when you brought it up the first time, we all went something clicked on us because you started not just talking about it, but you were actually physically doing these movements, and we were like, man, that makes so much sense. You got your thought, and then you got that physical feelness, and then you got that, okay, what next? And if this is positive or is it negative? There's so many things going on, but in the manner that you explain it, it just made a lot of sense to all of us. And I thank you, Grace, for really allowing me in your life and allowing us to do this. And I keep telling you, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in divine intervention, and there's a reason that you and I cross paths. And it's to, again, I trust in Dr. Grace Chen, and I hope that you all that are watching out there as well, give us the opportunity. Just give us a chance. Come and see us. Come and see us once. And if you don't want us to go again, that's fine. But at least come out there and give it a try and give it a chance.
Yeah, and I really would appreciate that people actually come out to the Vet to Vet or Mini Talk series, because it is just so important that we can come together and really making this community a better place for the veterans.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen if you're not proactive.
And it's not going to happen unless you take action.
Exactly. So we're used to that. As veterans, we're used to it. So we need to be able to at least now come back and get our lives back in order and continue our lives. If for nothing else, man, for your loved ones that are surrounding you, but most importantly for you, yourself, because living at that state, it's mentally exhausting. And I can't just imagine someone just being at that, hypervigilance level or that irritable level 24 hours a day. That's exhausting, Grace.
It is.
It's exhausting.
Very.
So I'm hoping that you all that are watching, maybe if you know someone that's a veteran, maybe you want to pass it on to them and let them know that these options are there, and they're there for you. These are, and also let me also just add that these are some funds that I'm getting through the Department of Veteran Services and through. And fortunate enough to get some funds to the Community Development Block Grant, the City of Lawrence. Those funds are there for us to put court meetings of this sort together. So if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it, right? So, then we as veterans can't say, well, I'm not getting that help, because you don't always have to go to the Department of Veterans Affairs to get services. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that are providing really great services and have really good meetings that are just vet to vets, or again, mini talks, or some type of supportive services is out there. So seek it out. So,
and you might be shy, you might be scared, you might not feel like it the first time.
Don't talk about it.
Think about the first day you walk into your boot camp.
Yeah, that many of us want to forget.
Exactly, and trust me, you wouldn't be worse than that.
Yeah, no, nothing would be worse than that. So we're gentle, and she's very gentle.
And if you can walk into your boot camp, you
Yeah.
can come to our meetings.
That's very true. With that, I think we're going to leave it. And again, thank you, Dr. Grace Chen,
Thank you for having me.
being my guest. And you will be seeing her again, so it was not going to be repeats. It says we're going to continue on with these talks at least, so that if you cannot make it to our office at 599 Canal Street in the 6th floor conference room, or you're not able to make it to the Northern Essex Community College for our next, not the next one, but the next one after that, which will be in January. If you can't make it to that one, then you could always be, you could always come to the local channel in your area, and then hopefully be able to view pretty much what we just talked about.
Yep.
Pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to be doing. Probably a little bit more extensive because we'll have a little bit more time.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, So anyway, like I said, thank you, Dr. Grace, for
you.
being with us. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for helping us veterans understand a little bit about ourselves. So with that said, again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for staying. And like I always say, go make a difference in someone's life today. And I think you're going to be watching this during Christmas, so Merry Christmas.